Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to a video that I've been planning to do for quite some time. It's not a top 10 list, it's my top 50 favourite films of all time. Now this has been an ongoing project for me for well over a year now. Over a year ago, I started doing top 10 lists of my favourite films from a particular decade. So it's my favourite films from the 70s, from the 80s, from the 90s, from the noughties and the 2010s. And that adds up to 50 films. So the idea of those lists was for me to try and put together a definitive list of my favourite films of all time. Specifically, a top 10 list of my favourite films of all time. And the top two winners of each of those decades, so the films that came first and second in those decades, primarily in this video are going to be in my top 10. So all the films that got in the top two in those videos are going to be in the top 10 here on this list. Every other film, it's open season really. Regardless of the decade, it can come anywhere else on the list. Here are my top favourite 50 films. Now, when putting this list together, there are a couple of anomalies, and that's mainly down to the choices I had in that decade, and I will talk about them a little bit more when they come up during the list. So, with this being a fairly lengthy list, I'm not going to go into great depth in any of the films, really. A lot of them I will have reviewed on the channel in regards to classic film reviews and whatever, so I'll mention that if I have reviewed it. But I'll just, I'm not going to go on too long in regards to these films because we'll be here all day. Right, so without further ado, coming in at number 50 on this list is Independence Day. Now, I know a lot of people may roll their eyes at this film, and I'm kind of one of them sometimes, but I still remember when this came out at the cinema, and it was a real crowd pleaser, and I went back to the cinema to watch it several times. Every time it shows up on telly, I always generally give it a little glance over and give it a watch. It's an audience-pleasing, cheesy film, and it's one that has pleased me over the years, which is why it has made the list. So, number 49 on this list is Forrest Gump. The classic Tom Hanks film. What else is to say about it, really? It's just a really fantastic classic film. Number 48 on the list is The Blair Witch Project. Now, this is a little bit of an anomaly. While this isn't my favourite found footage film of all time, my favourite found footage film is certainly not this one. It's Grave Encounters. But this is the film that arguably developed my love for found footage. It's a really fantastic found footage film, and it delivered a whole new genre for a whole new generation of horror fans. Coming in at number 47 is Mad Max Fury Road. Who would have thought that this reboot would have worked the way it worked? And it absolutely did. They delivered a brilliant action film first and reinvented Mad Max for a new audience. Coming in at number 46, and this is another anomaly, it's Star Trek, the 2009 version of Star Trek. I know these films, these new Kelvin timeline films, don't always have a huge fan base. Some of them have started to turn sour on them. I really like them, and I really like this in particular. However, similar with Blair Witch Project, this isn't my favourite Star Trek film of all time. That title goes to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. However, that didn't make my list in regards to my 80s films, so I can't put it on this list. Coming in at number 45 is 28 Days Later. Just a really fantastic horror film that still creeps me out to this day. Number 44, Taken, the film that essentially sent Liam Neeson into the stratosphere in regards to an action star. It's just a really, really brilliant action film that sparked a franchise. Yes, the other two was nowhere near as good as the first one, but they are still decent. But I really, really love the first Taken film. Coming in at number 43 in the list is The Conjuring. A really good modern-day horror film that sets the blueprint, I think, for a good horror film for a modern audience. It's scary, it's creepy, it's beautifully made with great performances and just a highly polished modern horror. Coming in at number 42 on the list is Heat, the Michael Mann classic film Heat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Just superb. Coming in at number 41 on the list is Clockwork Orange, A Clockwork Orange. This film I obviously didn't see when it first came out at the cinema. It was banned in the UK for a long, long time. My first experience of this film was when it was re-released in UK cinemas after Stanley Kubrick passed away. And I went to the cinema to see it with my friend and absolutely loved it. Fell in love with the film. It's really shocking, but just a brilliant, brilliant film. Coming in at number 40 is Unbreakable. The Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson classic film that we now know is part of a trilogy, but easily the best of the three is Unbreakable, in my opinion, anyway. Coming in at number 39 is Man of Steel. I think people are starting to love this a little bit more now, and the more they realise that it's less likely that Henry Cavill is going to be returning in any capacity as Superman in the near future. Fingers crossed that he does, but I think we've got to look back and appreciate what we got from Henry Cavill, and we got an absolutely superb Superman film in Man of Steel, in my opinion anyway. Coming in at number 38, Bohemian Rhapsody. Just a fabulously made film, a really good biopic of one of the greatest bands of all time. Coming in at number 37 is Deadpool. This came along really when we're all starting to get a little bit fed up of all the superhero films, and this was like the antidote to a large degree, and a real palate cleanser for a lot of us. It's just huge, huge fun and genuinely hilarious. Number 36 on the list is Spider-Man 2. Easily the best Sam Raimi Spider-Man film. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Great villain with Doc Ock. And obviously we've got to re-experience both the Tobey Maguire and the Doc Ock characters in the newest Spider-Man, which was absolutely brilliant. Number 35, The Bourne Identity. I love the Bourne franchise. Arguably, I like them all equally, but it's the first one that started it all. It's a film as well, or the franchise as well, that forced Bond to rethink its approach to making films, to make them a bit more grounded, a bit more gritty, and a bit more realistic. So for that reason, it deserves special mention, but I just love the Bourne Identity films. Number 34, The Outlaw, Josie Wales. My favourite Western of all time. Certainly my favourite Clint Eastwood Western, and he's done some absolutely brilliant ones over the years. I can watch this over and over again. It's just so, so good. And if you haven't seen The Outlaw Josie Wales, strongly recommend you check it out. Number 33 on the list is Seven. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, the arguably deeply depressing serial killer film, but its undeniable quality just shines through, and it's shocking, gripping, and hard-hitting stuff. Coming in at number 32 on the list, another serial killer film, The Silence of the Lambs. What can you say, really? Anthony Hopkins, Jodie Foster, in peak form in regards to their performances, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful film. Number 31 on the list is The Matrix. The first one, and clearly now we've seen with all the sequels that we've had, the 3 sequels following this, it just shines above all the others, and that's mainly because of its originality and just the sheer class that it was made. I mean, it kind of redefined the action genre at the time. Wonderful stuff. Coming in at number 30 on the list is The Exorcist, one of the best horror films ever made, deeply impactful. It was a while again till I saw this one. I never saw it in a cinema. But it is still effective today. It's still very, very scary today, and undeniable quality. Coming in at number 29 on the list is Aliens, the James Cameron sequel to one of the greatest science fiction horrors of all time. He spun it on his head and kind of turned it into an action film, and it is just wonderful stuff. Coming in at number 28 is John Wick. The action film that, again, Keanu Reeves managed to be in, where it redefined a genre. I think it's undeniable that the John Wick films have kind of twisted the action genre and shown the quality that you should be aiming for if you're doing an action film these days. Number 27 is Guardians of the Galaxy, a film that I expected to hate when I first saw it. Didn't know anything about the Guardians of the Galaxy. Went to the cinema to watch it, and I was like swept up with it all. I just thought it was absolutely brilliant and proof that Marvel can do an original film and really knock it out of the park. Number 26 is Gladiator, the Russell Crowe Ridley Scott classic, a timeless tale. It's one of those films that people will still be watching 30, 40, 50 years down the line, like people watch Spartacus and things and just know it's top quality stuff. Number 25 is Iron Man, the film that started the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. What can you say really about Iron Man? It's just brilliant. It's a fantastic origin story and set the foundations and the blueprints for the Marvel films to follow. Number 24 is Alien. One of the greatest horrors of all time, an absolute stone cold classic, very, very frightening, very, very effective. And it just, what could you say? It's one of the best ever. Number 23, Die Hard, one of the greatest action films of all time, certainly of the 80s. It made a star out of Bruce Willis, and we got many, many sequels to follow. Number 22, As Good As It Gets. A really warm, charming, funny film with one of the greatest leading performances by the two leads, really, Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt. They both took Oscars home for this, and it's just an endlessly enjoyable film that I can watch many, over and over again. Number 21 is Lethal Weapon, another 80s action classic that started another fantastic franchise. I just absolutely love it. I love the characters of Murtaugh and Riggs, and the films for me never get old. Right, we're heading into the top 20 now. Number 20 on the list is Halloween, the John Carpenter classic that started an incredible franchise. It's probably my favourite horror franchise, and the original one is still very, very effective and impactful today. Coming in at number 19, another one of my favourites that started one of my favourite franchises of all time. It's Rocky. Wow, just a fantastic film. It's ageless, it's timeless, it's the underdog story, which we all love, and again, one of the greatest franchises of all time. Number 18 is Superman, the movie. Big part of my childhood, this film. I think Christopher Reeve is still the definitive Superman, and it's a fantastic origin story by Richard Donner. Number 17 is Blade Runner, the 80s classic, again by Ridley Scott, which again highlights just what a fantastic director he is. Sci-fi classic, Harrison Ford, Rutger Hauer, just pitched perfectly with incredible visuals and a very, very effective film. Number 16 is The Terminator, the film that, sent Schwarzenegger into the stratosphere in regards to his superstardom. He was starting to make a name for himself, made Terminator, was really, really keen on being the villain, and it turned out quite well for him. Coming in at number 15 is The Thing. Again, one of my favourite horrors of all time, John Carpenter classic. Just so tense, so enthralling, and the effects are just outstanding still to this day. Number 14 on the list is Ghostbusters, one of the biggest audience-friendly films of all time. Great stuff, really funny, and for me, I absolutely love Ghostbusters Afterlife. It seemed to capture the magic of the original Ghostbusters film, and what can you say about Ghostbusters? Incredible stuff. Number 13, Empire Strikes Back, the second Star Wars, and in many people's eyes, the best Star Wars film that's ever been made. It's hard to argue. It's top quality stuff, and it goes to show just how good the original trilogy was. Coming in at number 12 is Dirty Harry. Again, it's one of those films that I just don't think ages. It's a character that is just iconic. Clint Eastwood played him pitch perfectly. A no-nonsense cop. It's the kind of film that wouldn't get made today. Audiences, I don't think, would accept a Dirty Harry character today. But they probably need to be making more films with characters like this these days that don't pander to softened audiences, I think it's fair to say. Coming in at number 11 is Avengers Endgame. For me, the perfect superhero film in many, many ways. And it was a beautifully crafted film that ended like a journey from all those Marvel films we'd had leading up to it. It was it was just a fantastic way to end that journey and start a new phase going forward. They've had a few misses in regards to the new phase, but leading up to my Avengers Endgame and that film as well, it was just the perfect way for me to end, and it was just goosebump moment after goosebump moment watching that film. Right, coming in at number 10, and this is another one that's kind of an anomaly, because from these films, as I've mentioned, from 10 down to 1, these are all the films that were the top 2 films in my decade's top 10 list. So coming in at number 10 on the list is Blade Runner 2049, which was my second favourite film from the 2010s list. Is this better than Blade Runner? I do remember saying at the time that I think there's a debate to be had when I reviewed this film. I think it's stunning. Denis Villeneuve is my new favourite director. I just adore his direction and his visual style. It's just so beautiful. And I just couldn't believe how good Blade Runner 2049 was. Coming in at number 9 is Terminator 2 Judgement Day. Wow. Improved on the original in almost every way. Some purists out there still prefer the original. Don't get me wrong, it's clear, it's high on my list. I love the original too, but I just think Terminator 2 kind of, shined everything up and just really made it much, much better. Coming in at number 8 on the list, and some might be surprised by this, but it was my favourite film from the 2010s list. It is The Nice Guys. The Ryan Gosling, Russell Crowe film directed by Shane Black. I can't fault this film. This is probably my most watched film from the last 5 years. I've probably watched it at least a dozen times, maybe more. To me, I never tire watching it. It's just a perfect film. I love it. Coming in at number 7 on the list is Jaws. I don't need to say anything else. It's Jaws. It's bloody good. It deserves to be high on any list. Number 6 is Raiders of the Lost Ark. For me, my favourite Indiana Jones film. I love Temple of Doom as well, and I love all of them. I mean, I'm a bit indifferent with the last one they did, and I'm worried about the new one he's doing, but it doesn't take away from the fact that Raiders of the Lost Ark is a brilliant, timeless action-adventure film. Coming in at number 5 is Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Arguably, you can put the other two in there as well, because I think they are all part of one big film, all part of one big journey. I'm just rewatching them now. I think I will have either already put up, or I will be putting up my classic film review for Fellowship of the Ring around the time I put this video up. I adore the Lord of the Rings franchise. I don't mind the Hobbit films, but they're just not as good as these ones at all. And for me, the Fellowship of the Ring is just pitch perfect. Coming in number 4 on the list is Predator. My favourite Arnie film, one of the best horror action films ever made, and it's just endless times I've watched it. It's top quality stuff. Coming in at number 3 is The Dark Knight, the best Christian Bale outing as Batman. Heath Ledger, I don't care what anyone says, that's the best Joker I've ever seen put to screen. I'm not sure it will ever be topped. I know Joaquin Phoenix's performance as Joker won him an Oscar, and it was incredible. But when you compare the two, I think the Heath Ledger's Joker was more in tune with the Joker that we know and arguably love from all the comics and cartoons and media that we've seen over the years. Coming in at number 2, this difficult decision, it's Star Wars. First film I ever went to the cinema to see. It still holds a special place in my heart. It's a perfect film. Anybody can watch it and understand it. It's just in a universal language, good versus evil, and it's just incredible, top-notch stuff. And number 1, anybody that knows me might know this one already before I say it. It's The Shawshank Redemption. Again, it's a perfect film. It's hard-hitting, it's hopeful, it's beautiful, with some of the best performances I've ever seen put to screen. It's almost criminal that this didn't get the recognition it deserved upon its original theatrical release, but it's thundered down that hill and gathered pace ever since. and rightfully so. It's been regarded by many as the greatest film of all time, and it certainly is in my list as well. So there you go, guys. A bit of a mammoth task to put my 50 favourite films together. Let me know in the comments what your favourite films of all time are. If you've got your own channel and you're watching this, maybe I would love to watch you guys do your own version of this, your 50 favourite films of all time. It's been an intimidating list for me to do. I've kind of put it off for a long time because I don't like generally listing my favourite films of all time. And I know as soon as I post this, you know, I will have other things pop in my mind that would probably have jumped in and out of this list. So it's ever shifting, it's ever changing, these sort of lists. But this is as close as I'm going to get to a definitive list of my favourite films of all time. So I hope you enjoyed watching it, guys.